So you're coming home from the hospital, and literally worked on not to be put on the cart, and I handed my son to my friend who's the son, and he put Jordan, had two juggernaut speeds, 2 days old. Yeah. You have such a
What do you want?
सीट को करो यार
ये करो पवित्र किया सबने
अभी करो दोनों साइड करो
क्या क्या
पानी अगर किसी को कुछ
Years full of cooking, so I haven't called it a payback. My son was born on July 17th, and in Boise, where we live, they walked up to the solar and we brought him home from the hospital. And literally at the time, we left her No. My friend took my son. Where was that? Boise, I don't know. Boise. That's what we want. उसके बाद अरे वो ये वहाँ पर ज्यादा उपयोग करो सेल जरूर तुम्हें पास 530 मास्टर है फिर स्टार्ट कर देना Yeah, when they are no. No, so glad you're there. Can you slow down?
Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jaya Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhava Tumi. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Patagami Bhava Tumi. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhava Tumi. Jagannath Swami Nayana Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhava Tumi. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhava Tumi.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna. Now, as you all know, this is the very first festival we're doing, where we're doing it in this style, where pretty much it's back to normal, except that we've changed the Rath somewhat into a very beautiful Rath that we've got to take the lordships. We're not quite pulling the cart, but we'll be pulling from our hearts. The idea is to use your heartstrings and pull the Lord with your heartstrings. The other thing is we do not have the permit to be on the streets. We don't want the police coming and telling us that you got to stop this festival. So for that, we're seeking your cooperation in this way. Only the car is allowed on the street. We stay on the sidewalk. They cannot stop us if we stay on the sidewalk. You cannot be in front of the car or behind the car, because if somebody complains, the police come and stop us, there's no way we're going to be able to stop them from putting an end to this program. And we don't want this program to end. There's nothing wrong, just like we're pulling from the strings of our hearts. Please stay on the sidewalk, and then we're going to go around this block once. We'll be going around next time, including a second block as well. And then we'll come back and the festival will continue here. Okay? Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, very good. Yeah, Dharma was very intelligent. So there are two streets on which we actually own all the houses pretty much on those streets. That's Gurley Avenue and Perry Avenue. So on Gurley and Perry, if you get on the street, it won't bother anybody too much. But we are the residents, no one's going to complain. Okay? So that's a good idea. So fine, thank you very much. Just try and do this as much as you possibly can. Don't stress out. Be very, very, very happy that this program is happening. Sri Jagannath Rath Yatra ki. Sri Jagannath Rath Yatra go up the Binda ki. Sri Jagannath Rath Yatra Kirtan Mahotsava ki.
Nam Vishnu Paya Krishna Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityananda.
बच्चों को थोड़ा देखता हूँ, आप मेरे को कॉल करो मेरे टाइम पे, मैं चेक करता हूँ।
Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prasadadesakarine.
Nice to see all of you. Nice to see you after so long. See all of you there too.
Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha, Shiva Sadi Gaura Madhavendra.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhagavata.
रोड करेंगे बहुत राइट maybe कीर्तन करेंगे He will be coming. I'll bring you on the YouTube.
Jagannath Swami. To the right.
चलो कॉल कर दो around the temple, right? Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Okay, okay, sir. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama So what's the new plan?
Keep going. I guess we'll go around. More time on the yeah. I don't know. We don't have to do two. Let's go.
But you have 59.
Let's keep going. Let's go forward. No reason to stop.
You'll do one or two.
Like,
Just one.
one time, next time is a bigger circle. Okay. Small circle, the temple around the temple first.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna,
I thought we were going to stop for an offering.
Is it on the left side or anything like that? वो आ रहा होगा यूट्यूब पर चेक करना चाहिए बीच में एक बार आ रहा होगा पूरी चेक कर लेना।
Years and all the devotees had 30,000. Oh, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Decoration from Lord. Radha. Slow. Nice and slow. Please clear the way. Clear the way. Nice and slow. Touching. Zoom broadcast. Hold that for him. Perfect. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. लगा दो जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा की इसको निकाल लिया बंद हो गया बंद नहीं हुआ Jaya Jagannath Jaya His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaya Charana Arvindam, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON founder Acharya, BBT founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Guru Bind ki, Shri Shri Guru Parampara ki, Shri Sat Gosai Prabhu ki, Anant Koti Vaishnava Bind ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se kaho Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhara, Shivasa, Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shyam Kund Radha Kund, Giri Govardhana ki, Shri Braja Bhumi, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Mayapur Navadvipa Dham ki, Purushottam Yatra, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Shri Gokul Puri Dham ki, Jamuna Mai ki Jai, Ganga Mai ki Jai, Srimati Tulsi Devi Maharani ki Jai, Srimati Bhakti Devi Maharani ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Bolo Shri Harinama Sankirtan ki, Sankirtan Mahayagya ki, Yug Dharma Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki, ISKCON Texas Yatra ki, Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Books and Transcendental Mahaprasadam ki, Jai Baba, Shri 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 Jagannath Rath Yatra ki, Shri 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 Panchatattva ki, Shri 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 Jagannath Baladeva Subhadra Maharani ki, Shri Shri Prahlad Nrsimhadev ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ji ki, Shri Shri Chota Radha Govinda ji ki, Shri Shri Chota Radha Kalachandji ki, Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji ki, Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji Dham ki, Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji Dham, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to you all, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for attending this program. We had such a nice turnout. We were thinking that we'll do this program with about 50 or 100 people around. We've got many more hundreds here today. We thank you all so very much. In many ways, this is one of the most important festivals that we hold. In our scriptures, the acharyas describe that Krishna cannot repay the devotees for all of the love that the devotees show Krishna. And so he says, I repay them when I do my Rath Yatra. I will repay you all for all of the love you have shown to the deities and to the devotees. And so on behalf of the deities, I want to thank all of you for attending today's program. Now we'll hear wonderfully from His Holiness Vittadhwaja Swami Maharaj ki. Thank you all so very much. Hare Krishna.
ठीक है मम्मा करता दिख रहा है आपको I'm leaving right after this election. I'm going home after this election.
Prabhupada ki, Jagannath Rath Yatra ki, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ji ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Welcome everyone again on behalf of Kalachandji to the first, what do we call this, like post-pandemic testing Rath Yatra. Hopefully next year we'll be at Warren Park as we regularly are. I had a little discussion today with His Holiness Giriraj Swami. And I said, they've asked me to give class for Rath Yatra. I said, what should I speak on? And he said, well, we can speak on Lord Chaitanya's ecstatic mood during Rath Yatra and Jagannath Puri. Then he said you could talk about Krishna, Baladev, and Subhadra going from Dwarka to Kurukshetra. And then I said, why not Srila Prabhupada bringing Jagannath Rath Yatra throughout the world? The fact that this festival happens, I'm 69 years old, and I had met all the way through high school, all the way through school, 2 years of college. I'd never heard of Lord Jagannath. Never heard of him. I heard of India. I heard of the Lord Krishna. They taught us about Krishna in our upbringing. Kind of like a mythological figure, stuff like that. But here we have a personality about this boy's age. How old is this boy?
He's turning 4.
Turning 4. So when Srila Prabhupada was like 4 or 5 years old, he, I guess the word could be pestered his father. I want to do Rath Yatra. Young boy wanted to do Rath Yatra. So his father, actually in that time, made a big expenditure to get him. He finally found him a cart. You know the story. It's quite expensive to arrange for this. And finally one lady said, I have one that I can give you very cheaply. And Srila Prabhupada began giving instructions at that young age, very, very young age. Srila Prabhupada ki. Will it stay? No. Srila Prabhupada as a child was already beginning the preaching pastimes, requesting his father to do this Rath Yatra. And even the neighbor found out about it. And the neighbor said, why aren't you inviting us? And his father would say, oh, just the children are playing. He said, no, this is a very serious occasion. And Srila Prabhupada, as a young boy, was beginning this idea of Rath Yatra. When Prabhupada came to America, in San Francisco, he had the first Rath Yatra. I don't know if you've all seen the pictures of that first Rath Yatra truck. Just like today we had a Rath Yatra car, convertible car. I guess someone got the excuse to buy a nice convertible car because it was Jagannath's Rath Yatra. Somebody had to sacrifice the money for that. And so the devotees were facing three directions. Lord Jagannath and then Baladev and Subhadra on the sides. And it went on procession. There's so many different activities, just like in Jagannath Puri, where Lord Chaitanya was performing Rath Yatra, going from the Jagannath temple to the Gundicha temple. For those of you who missed it last week, we had a wonderful Gundicha festival. Next year, we expect everyone here to show up. That's the pre-festival festival. And there's so many activities when the deities would try to stop, nothing could get them to go. When the deity cart stopped, they would actually hook elephants up to the cart and try to make it move, and it would not move. But when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would get behind the cart and push, the cart would move. In the same way, the devotees came to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, the truck would get stuck and the truck couldn't move no matter what we did, we couldn't move. And he said, yes. What's going on with the microphone? He said, yes, just like in Jagannath Puri, in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, the car would stop. So now we have this Rath Yatra, this festival, two parts. One part is for the devotees. Devotees come together. The idea is Sangha, Satsanga. Satsanga means hearing that which is Sat, that which is permanent, not temporary events that happen in our life. So many temporary events that are going on. Can't quite figure out why that's going from one to the other. So many different temporary events. Yesterday I was listening to I was reading a nice part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 7. This is kind of the heavy part of the lecture, where Srila Prabhupada is explaining the embodiment of the soul is the emblem of disease. Its body is just by its constitution, by the constitution of this body, it has to become disease, whether this one or that one. And ultimately, we have to come to the point of understanding that this is not us, that we're disease-free, and that we're an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And so as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought forth this chanting of Hare Krishna to cleanse the heart, Srila Prabhupada also did the same thing. And this Rath Yatra is part of that, for us to get together and talk about the permanent things of life. Just like there's so many conversations going on here in the park today. Let's let them all be directed towards serving Lord Jagannath. Let's reevaluate what is important to us. We have an opportunity to set priorities. And it's actually important to set priorities. What can we do? We cannot extend for a moment. We can't extend it for a moment. We don't know. So we set the priorities for glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. Just like the Bhagavad Gita spoken by Lord Krishna. And as Srila Prabhupada explains in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, he says that at least in theory, one should accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead speaking. And if this is God speaking, that it has some value. Any ideas? No, it's working. I think it's just got, it's kind of like my mind. It has its own opinion. Okay, whatever. One cannot be attached to the ordinary course of activities. Verse number 13, chapter 12, I think, or 14, chapter 12. So the idea is that when we have these Rath Yatra festivals, get together and talk about our spiritual well-being. A lot of people ask me, Mars, how are you doing? And I say, they ask often, how is your health? I say, I got a little bit left. Anybody catch that one? Young kid can, yeah, we're that age. Huge investment, small returns. You have any business majors in the crew over here? Any business majors? Yeah. Huge investment, small return. Huge, Oliver Razor. It's nice. Hopefully they're successful, both materially and spiritually. We have the example of the bird in the cage. Anybody ever heard the story of the bird in the cage? If you have a bird and you have a cage to protect the bird, not to entrap the bird or imprison the bird, but to protect the bird. Some birds need bird cages to be protected. And you simply decorate the cage, but you forget to feed the bird. Got that about you? Sorry to pick on it, I know better than that. My apologies. If you forget to feed the bird, but you decorate the cage with all kinds of this degree, that degree, this opulence, that opulence, so many different things. It's like decorating the bird cage with different jewels and gems and gold plating it, but forgetting to feed the bird. So in the same way, it's not that you let the cage get dirty and inappropriate, but at the same time, you don't forget to feed the bird. And so in the same way, all these young men who raise their hand with their business degrees, I hope they're materially successful, but that they don't forget to serve the bird in the cage. Don't forget to utilize not only them, but everyone here, and making examples because they're my gang, what do you call it, homies? And so we all have to not forget what the purpose of this life is meant to be. Srila Prabhupada left. I was just talking to one, it's become a very dear friend, and she was talking about writing a book and trying to understand and explain. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say that Krishna consciousness is the only way, and then sometimes he'll say, doesn't matter what name of God you chant. Srila Prabhupada went to Iran, and he told the people, you chant Allah, Allah, Allah. He said, this is the name you're used to. And then he went from Iran to Calcutta and landed in Calcutta and gave an arrival address and told all the people in Calcutta, I just came from Iran, and I told them all to chant Allah, Allah, Allah. So the universality, if that's a word, of this Krishna consciousness movement, that it's non-sectarian, multi-denominational. The Prabhupada used to always say that they created the United Nations, whatever year that was, in the late 40s, early 50s, whenever it was. I don't even know. And he says every year they meet and have big discussions, but every year more and more flags, more and more diversity, no unity. But he says Krishna consciousness, we have people from all walks of life. We have people from every place in the world that are chanting Hare Krishna. And this is all due to the wonderful efforts of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, who brought forth this movement to establish that Lord Jagannath, Jagannath means Lord of the universe. In other words, the Lord of everyone. He's not meant just for one class of people in one little village, in one little state in India. He's meant to go all over the whole world. Here we are in this little urban area in Dallas, Texas, and the Lord of the universe is residing here. Now, how amazing is that? When you really come to think about it, Krishna is actually there's a verse about the soul. Some see the soul is amazing, some hear it's amazing, some even after hear they can't actually understand what to speak of Krishna. What to speak of Krishna. I'm okay, it's okay. What to speak of Krishna, understanding Krishna. And one must undergo to actually get the understanding of Krishna. Very nice verse I was just reading before I walked. Actually, I got a little bit too much sun and went home because I knew I was going to have to speak. And nice verse in the Bhagavatam purport where Prabhupada explains, Sammoham sarva bhuteshu. The Krishna is equal to all living entities, but those who give themselves to Krishna, Krishna gives extra attention to that. In the commentary, Srila Prabhupada is explaining how Krishna is just like the rain cloud. It pours rain everywhere. The rain cloud rains on the ocean, it rains on the rocks, it rains on the earth, it rains everywhere. It just rains on the desert, it rains everywhere. It only rains in the desert once in a while. But the idea is that the rain is going everywhere. But when it hits a particular type of earth, it fructifies. In the same way, when the devotees reciprocate with Krishna, when they reciprocate with Krishna, Krishna spends special attention to them. And if we become akinchana, it's the word we learned the other day, akinchana. Of course, we've heard it many, many times, akinchana or nishkinchana. Free from all, in other words, the word actually means materially exhausted. Anybody here materially exhausted? Raise your hand. Anybody tired of trying to make all of our material arrangements become perfect and actually are ready to just like surrender? Just like say Krishna, just like Draupadi, okay, I've had enough. I'm trying to hold on to something, but it's not working. Is it working for anyone here? I might need some help. Is it working? Oh, you're picking on the guy now. Okay. Remember, when we do this, it gets, what goes around comes around. Just keep that in mind. When we truly examine the situation, we can see that we need to become materially exhausted. In other words, all of our efforts, all of our material opulence, all of our material qualities cannot actually save us in this material world. It can't save us. The only thing that can actually save us is having Namashaya, full shelter at the holy name of Krishna. This Namashaya is there, and this is what that's what the festival is for. It's for us to get together and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead and have satsanga, those types of sanghas, those types of association, which bring out our good qualities, our spiritual qualities, our innate qualities which are in the soul, and actually allow us to spiritually flourish. And at the same time, because we're gregarious by nature, we have a need for social interaction. How many of us, anybody here get a little isolation fatigue this year? Having to stay on, I stayed in this little 14 by 14 room for like the last 16 months. This is the third time I've been to the temple in 16 months. It's crazy. I'm going crazy too. And this week it was supposed to rain every day, and I told Padma and Darasha, if it's going to be raining and cloudy for the next 13 days, just pad the walls. Anybody feel like you need to pad the walls once in a while? Okay. Yeah. So we come to this point of Kinshana where we have no more need to try to take shelter of something other than Krishna. We've given up all the fallible soldiers. In the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam, it describes all the different fallible soldiers, family, friends, all the material things that we gather in this world. Huh? All the things we gather in this world, they're like fallible soldiers. We need to find those things which can actually sustain us on a permanent basis. We can get some temporary relief in this material world, and I know. I'm one that usually goes for the temporary relief, I have to be honest. But I also know that it doesn't work because I've tried so many times. So going more into that purport, that verse, as one approaches Krishna, Krishna rewards accordingly. So at the same time, I do a little podcast the other day. I was explaining that as we approach Krishna, we cannot demand a particular type of reciprocation from Krishna. Krishna is Surat. Krishna is independent. He's not dependent upon us. Krishna is Rama. He's fully satisfied. He actually learned that in Gurukul, how to be self-satisfied. One of the lessons he took in Gurukul. He learned each lesson completely in one day. That was pretty good. But Krishna is completely Surat. He's independent. He doesn't need us. One time I was listening to a lecture and Srila Prabhupada was explaining that Krishna does not need your halava. He's got halava so much better where he's at than what you can offer, but you need to offer your halava to Krishna because that'll purify you. Because whatever, if one offers with me with love and devotion, a fruit, a flower, a leaf, a water, a little cup of halava, I'll accept it. We always know who is going to make advancement in Krishna consciousness by how much they like halava. Anybody here like halava? God bless you. So we have this golden opportunity. It is a golden opportunity on these days to come together for satsanga, to associate in a spiritual transcendental way, which benefits us, allows us to open the lotus of the heart and actually get a glimpse, get a little bit of a glimpse of spiritual understanding. And it's also meant on the second side, I've got the first side a little bit, now we'll get to the second side, and the second side is to actually distribute Krishna consciousness far and wide. If anybody's looked around, the material world is Dukkhalayam Shashvatam. It's a place where it's not, things don't always go the way we wish they would go. Dukkhalayam Shashvatam. It was a very, very heavy word, almost hard for me to even say the track. It's a place of misery where one undergoes a repetition of birth and death. And in between we have old age and disease. And we cannot undo that. We cannot undo that. No matter how hard we try, we cannot undo that. And so when we see someone suffering, just like we're all suffering. Well, this is getting into be like a heavy, sober. I'm usually a little more light. But the idea is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is that that we can understand our eternal relationship with Krishna, have the light go on. That light of Krishna consciousness can go on if one actually just takes a moment to give themselves to Krishna. There are many opinions, even in the Hare Krishna movement, on how this should be done. But just let it be done. Let it be done. It doesn't matter which way, this way, that way, just let it be done. And somehow or another, according to one's capacity, give Krishna to other people. Just like we went out today at Clyde Warren Park, which many people here work very, very long and hard to get that venue for us to do this Rath Yatra. And hopefully we get that Rath Yatra at Clyde Warren Park again in the near future, like next year. It'd be very, very nice. We get the opportunity to share our experiences that we have in this association. And make that association something that we want to allow everyone to participate in, presenting it in such a way that it is attractive. Just like His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada was able to make so many adjustments for us to understand Krishna. So many adjustments. And those adjustments can be extended, but the purity of the society has to remain intact. And that depends on our adherence to spiritual principles. We were just discussing the other day in one Sangha group that the 4 principles of religion are mercy, austerity, cleanliness, and austerity. And these represent the 4 regulative principles that we follow. No illicit sexual intoxication, no gambling, and no meat eating. And without this, there's no ability to actually extend or actually come to the platform of goodness. Because in the mode of goodness, one can understand spiritual topics. You can't understand spiritual topics unless the heart is settled. And the heart cannot be settled if the mode of passion and ignorance are prevalent. I remember one time I was over here at White Rock Lake listening to Srila Prabhupada give a lecture. I've mentioned this several times in lectures I give, and Srila Prabhupada was explaining the Christians have their 10 commandments, we have our 4 regulative principles. It's the same thing. And I'm thinking, thou shalt not kill, and you're talking, we're on the battlefield of Yatra and all these different don't do this, don't do that, and we have our do's and don'ts also, but they don't seem to be the exact same thing. The Srila Prabhupada explained that the purpose of them is the same. It's to raise people to the mode of goodness. By following religious scripture, we come to the mode of goodness, and when we're situated in the mode of goodness, we have the ability to understand spiritual topics, spiritual subject matters. And as we understand that spiritual subject matter, we become closer and closer to our spiritual identity, understanding ourselves as we are. And without coming to that mode of goodness, even in the mode of goodness has an alluring effect. In other words, we can be trapped by the mode of goodness too. So we have to step out of the mode of goodness. You see how I use the gesture, pardon my speech. We have to step out of the mode. We have to step out of that mode and go into the value that mode of nature offers us to understand the relationship with Krishna. And so this is the 2 aspects of, there are many flavors in the Rath Yatra. When you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, when you understand the inhabitants of Dwarka going to Kurukshetra, and the inhabitants of Vrindavan coming to Kurukshetra to engage. These things are very, very deep. But for us, this is what our Rath Yatras are for in the Western countries, is to come together and to associate with like-minded people. People who want to place the center of their life at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. And not some, what's the Bhagavatam say, the will of the whim? Some of the words you learn in the Hare Krishna movement, like will of the whim, or eggs of a horse, or flowers in the sky. Some of these things are pretty unique for us, but it has a lot to offer. And it is being offered. All we have to do is accept that offer. There's a nice purport, I think it's verse 14, 15 in the 5th chapter of the Gita. And Srila Prabhupada explains there. The verse is, Krishna is not affected by one's pious or impious activities. That doesn't affect Krishna. It's just like if somebody, Krishna's not affected by our criminal activities. We may be affected by someone's criminal activities, but Krishna doesn't have that problem. And so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that due to one's avoiding Krishna consciousness since time immemorial, due to avoiding Krishna consciousness, anyone ever try to avoid Krishna? Anyone ever feel themselves like saying, here's my little bag of Maya, let's take a look what's inside. What do I have in there that I got an umbrella, just in case it rained, right? And so we have, how many here, try to avoid Krishna consciousness since time immemorial. Why are we here? In other words, it says Dharantya. This material energy is divine because it's coming from Krishna, but it's this external separated energy, Vina, Prakriti. It's the external energy of Krishna, but it's divine because it's coming from Krishna. And how does it become divine? By offering it back to Krishna. If we offer it to ourselves without offering to Krishna, and Krishna says we're verily eating only sin, we're only acting in sin. These are heavy words. I'm not sorry, I'm just repeating what I heard. What can I do? It's there. I got cheers from the crowd here. So we have an opportunity to open up, as we were saying, the heart, open up the heart and come to the point of seeing ourselves in relationship to Krishna. Why not? We've been in the material world for so many lifetimes, so probably we'll say, why not just one lifetime for Krishna? And as we move forward in this lifetime, we can see how we're creating our own bewilderment. That was part of that commentary in that 5th chapter verse, that we since time immemorial, we've been trying to avoid Krishna, and that avoidance of Krishna creates our own bewilderment. And then because we're bewildered, we think it's Krishna's fault. When it's actually, in other words, we're doing it to ourselves. And so we have an opportunity as we engage ourselves in satsanga, association, proper association, then that we get a little gyan, we get a little understanding, a little knowledge. And when we share this Krishna consciousness with others, then we get solidified knowledge. The knowledge becomes solidified in the heart. So we ask everyone here to please participate in this association with good intention. That intention being to satisfy Srila Prabhupada's desire to have these festivals engaging anyone and everyone, doesn't matter whom, broad-minded, equal vision. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Jagannath Baladev Subhadraji ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jagannath Rath Yatra ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. Should I ask for questions or should we just go to the next phase? Because, yes, my dear friend. You're so glad the sun came out? Yeah, I don't have to get the padded walls. Thank you. Even on, yes.
So we've been here from time immemorial, but we don't remember any of this. We should remember the so we said to be here for long since we have my side. Get out of here. But when are we going to be alive?
Whoops, I lost my vision. I'm reading your lips.
When are we going to realize that that is a true statement? Because we don't remember it.
I don't remember so many things. I know I was in the womb. I saw pictures of my mother's stomach. I don't remember it. I was 1 year old. I don't remember one. I was 2 years old. I don't remember two. I was 20 years old. I don't remember that either. Anybody catch that one? Just checking the crowd here. Seeing if you're still with me, right? There's so many things we don't remember. Like if I were to ask you what you're doing at this time, 21 days ago, what were you doing? Looking for your car keys, yeah. I can give a whole purport on that one. Everything has its place, everything in its place, so you have more time for chanting Hare Krishna than looking for stuff. So the idea is like that, you know, in other words, there's so many things that we don't remember. But when we hear, I was just talking to a very, very close friend who lost a family member. They were discussing how the different sensual perceptions, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and hearing, how they slowly, as a person is departing and exiting the body, how these slowly go away. And the last one to go is hearing. The last one to go is hearing, at least according to the person that he was being instructed by. And so while we hear, it's just like if a sleeping person hears something, they'll wake up. But if someone's pretending to be asleep, they won't wake up. Anyone here ever pretend to be asleep when they were supposed to be awake? Not only spiritually, but materially? So if we're pretending to be asleep and we cannot hear, there's a nice verse, I think it's 58 of the 18th chapter. Majitasa Vadogane Ma Prashadat Tarishasi. Hey, Krishna. Beautiful. Ma Prashadat Tarishasi. That if you become conscious of me, in the previous verse, Krishna said, become conscious of me. In this verse, he says, if you become conscious of me, you'll cross over all obstacles by my grace. But if you do not hear, due to ahankara, due to false ego, you're going to be lost. Just like I was talking, who was I talking to the other day? Doesn't matter, that's a detail that I can eliminate. I learned how to do a conversation. I study how to give talks. And so you leave out the details. And that was a detail I didn't need to bring in, the detail. But anyway, that's another thing. Just teaching my young men how to do it right by my non-example. And so the idea, it's there. You know what I mean? The idea is there. All we have to do is pretend. By false ego, we don't want to hear. See, once we acquire the false ego, the mind's job is to protect it. I was given this example. I don't know what's called, a WhatsApp message or a podcast message. I do them every day. And the idea is that the mind's function in the material world is to protect the false ego. And the false ego comes from misdirected intelligence. The intelligence becomes misdirected because it becomes influenced by the modes of material nature. Then we have to untangle that mess. And so as you're questioning, just because we don't remember something doesn't mean it didn't happen. And if we want to remember something, just like, say, it probably gives the example of the amnesic person. If you have amnesia, what you do to somebody that has amnesia is you take them back, and this is your house, this is your car, this is your family, these are your friends, this is your whatever. So that maybe eventually something may click. Something may click. Anybody want something to click? Anybody not want something to click? Anybody awake? The same people raise their hands. But the idea is that if we repeatedly hear, like your question was, how long will we have to hear in order for us to understand? That's called the aha moment. And let's hope it doesn't happen at the last moment. I mean, the last moment's definitely going to be aha. But I hope it's Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah, just become convinced. But how do we become convinced? Just like, for example, that's like, say, you have a couple of children, but they're all duly cared for by life, but say when your son was like 12 years old, Dad, I'm in love. What's her name? I don't know. What does she do? I don't know. Where is she from? I don't know. What does she look like? I don't know. And so the more we understand, the more we understand about Krishna, the more we're going to learn how to love Krishna. And so the idea is submissive oral reception is very much necessary. We need submissive oral reception to have a reception where we're saying, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. And there's so many, it's a subtle aspect of the false ego. We have to see the subtle aspect of the false ego is demanding that we don't allow our intelligence to work. We don't allow ourselves to understand our position in this world. Because the false ego wants to identify with this material body and it wants to try to enjoy material sense gratification. Because it's become addicted. Indriyamana buddhi. These are the places where desire sits, in the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. This is where these desires reside. The Prabhupada says Krishna is very kind because he's given you information of where the enemy is located. And if you know where he's at, then you can fight the battle. But if he's hiding someplace and sneaking something into a room to do disastrous types of things, you're never successful. But Krishna is so kind. So the more we hear, to know you is to, we know, we're old enough to know the song. To know you is to love you. And we do, we just forgot. And so the amnesic person, so we all have amnesia of our spiritual identity. We're all under the control of material nature. And material nature has stringent laws. So stringent that just like that little child that was here that's turning 4 years old, the laws of nature are so strong that if I was fire, if a little kid came up, I would say, I'm not going to burn him. If somebody's been there 3 or 4 times and I haven't burned him, I keep telling them this is going to burn you. Maybe I'd burn him. Just let him, give him a little heat. Just a little heat, huh? A little heat. And so the idea is that the stringent laws of material nature don't take into consideration it's just a little boy or a girl. When you put your hand on fire, it burns. So that's how material nature works. And it works that way to wake us up. It's not working that way for any other purpose. It's working that way. Krishna arranged it. It's under Krishna's direction. So we can't demand Krishna. Yes, Nandini. I spent my life encouraging devotees and children.
Serving all the devotees.
Serving, okay. Yeah. The comment is that to serve the Vaishnavas and to serve the youth is a very important part of our life. Vaishnava Seva, serving devotees of the Lord. Unless one takes the dust of the feet of a Vaishnava and smears it on their head, it's practically impossible to understand Krishna and understand ourselves. This is the real medicine. Lord Chaitanya brought the medicine, Aushadhiya Maya. He brought the medicine to stop illusion. That's the chanting of the holy names. But in order for us to chant the holy names, there's a prerequisites. Trinadapi sanichinatoro api sabhustanam. Amanadena manadena kirtaniya sadahari. That one has to approach with a humble state of mind and be tolerant and not require any respect for themselves for any of their qualities or any of their attributes or any of their possessions, and be ready and willing to offer respect to every living entity. Srila Prabhupada would say we respect even the ants. But to speak of, not that the ant's like the lowest one, but we respect the ant, the lowest one. What to speak of a fellow Vaishnava? And we do have difficulties. Difficulty is the nature of the world. If there's no struggle, we have to see if we're working. So to always try to encourage, and I do, just to boast my own false ego, I do that even if I'm out just on a material level. Even on a material level, just like if I go to the doctor, I'll tell the lady behind the desk, your hair looks nice. And immediately they're like this, they're ready to hear the next thing I have to say. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. As soon as you say you look nice, their ears are just like the ears of a deer that hears the flute. And I'm the hunter. And I'm hunting people to become Krishna conscious. And this is the purpose. We have to see, what value everyone has, because everyone has value. That's the way we approach life. I learned this on a TED talk. One of my Gurukul boys gave me TED, and now all of a sudden they know my email address, and I get certain TED talks, and it says that Krishna Priya from Kalachandji. All the boys are going, a couple of owls over there. So the idea is that if you approach every single person you see to have something of value to offer you, and something you have enough self-esteem to understand that you have something of value to offer them, and if there's proper communication, both parties will have a valuable experience. But if you don't if you approach the person by thinking they have nothing to offer me because I know everything, I'm a born again Hare Krishna, and therefore I don't need to hear anything else, then we're going to find difficulty in sharing Krishna consciousness. People need kindness. Krishna's Bhaktaram Ragatat Sarvaloka Maheshwara. Oh, nice. Krishna is the dearmost Suhit. There's different words for friend in Sanskrit, and Suhit means dear friend. Very, very close, intimate friend. Very, very close, intimate friend of every living entity. And so if we can come to that platform where we see everyone part and parcel of Krishna, and they're just suffering in this way, I'm suffering in this way, I'm disturbed this way, they're disturbed that way. What difference does it make? Let's get out of this disturbing place once and for all. So this is my ending of this allotted time. I don't know who the MC is, but whoever it is, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 7. Starting? Okay. Make it now. Harbo, they're now serving prasadam, so everyone can, if you want prasadam, you can walk over to that stand over there. And Harbo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Oh, Jai Jagannath, Swami, Jai Jagannath. Jai Jagannath, Swami, Jai Jagannath. Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Jaya Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah. Rama, Hare Rama, oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jagannath's coming. Can you open the Pujari room door, please? Pujari room door.
Pujari room door. Pujari room door.
Hare Krishna.
Where were you? I was looking for you.
खबर शुरू हो गया वो 7 बजे आना था ऑलरेडी चल रहा है मिल रहा है हाँ हाँ ये चल रहा है चल रहा है